Where did the Blue Lanterns go? Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now this is the continuation of the Green Lantern storyline, and if you are new to the Green Lantern's Hal Jordan story, well, he became willpower itself, making his own ring, and then he destroyed Sinestro's war world. He was then brought back to life by the White Lantern as the rest of the Green Lanterns found a new home in the regular universe, and now that they are all together again, they are finally stable and working out the new battle plan. Deep out in Space Sector 2809, there is a cab driver being chased across Smuggler's Corridor. As the driver, known as Cabby, takes a puff out of his cigar, he says that he would love to see whoever's chasing him to catch up with his new translumal accelerator, and then he takes off. But two giant constructs shoot out, stopping the ship, and that's when Gardner flies by asking, "What's the rush? It's just your old pal Guy." After ripping the hatch off, a Guy flies in and Cabby says that he's heard that he was back on the beat. And Guy tells him, "You're damn right I'm back on the beat, me and the rest of the Green Lanterns. But I'm not here because of the illegal contraband that you're smuggling. I'm here for information." A Sinestro Corps symbol then appears, and Guy asks if he's seen anyone wearing that symbol around. Cabby looks at it and tells him, for that, it's really gonna cost him. Meanwhile, over in Space Sector 0 at the sentient planet Mogo, there is a meeting between the Green and Yellow Lanterns. You see, after the last event, they decided that without Sinestro, it was time for the two corps to work together. But before the meeting starts, Hal asks John how exactly is this whole Green and Yellow Lanterns under one roof thing supposed to work out. John tells Hal that he's not sure himself, and that's why they're having this meeting, but at least it's going to be a start. Hal goes on saying that the whole thing about him running the Corps before, but John stops him, telling him, "I know. Kilowog already explained the whole you taking all of the bad with you thing." Hal says that's good, because he's really sorry, but he's gonna have to bail on the meeting. There's something else that he needs to do real quick. John sighs. "You know, we're not getting off to a real good start here, Hal, but just go. Handle whatever business you need to do." As the meeting begins, John and Sornik explain that their intentions are to unify the two corps, and as they see it, there are not enough Yellow Lanterns to combine with the Green Lantern Corps, so the Green and Yellow Lanterns will pair up in search of the other remaining Yellow Lanterns and offer them a choice: redemption or the Science Cells. Back out in space, Kyle Rayner, the White Lantern, follows Hal Jordan as they travel through the translumal space, asking what exactly are they supposed to be doing, because it's almost scary that only they can do this job. Hal says that for this job, they're going to need a White Lantern, and as for him, well, he's needed because he's him. He's Hal Jordan. The two fly down to a molten, burning planet covered in lava, and no sooner do they get any closer to the ground does an eruption go off. Hal quickly creates a shield to stop the burning rocks from falling on them, and he tells Kyle that he really needs him to focus. They're looking for any signs of hope. Kyle holds out his arm and the blue light begins to shine and his ring begins to scan. He says that there's a signal, but it's faint and already slipping away. The two begin to follow the trail, and Kyle says while dodging a few avalanches and lava geysers really isn't an issue, but as they stop, Hal tells him that that's not really what concerns him. They both look up to see a giant alien, and Hal tells Kyle, "That's what I'm concerned about." Over at Mogo, Guy returns with Cabby, telling John that he's got someone to help with their leads on the Yellow Lanterns. John asks, with what are they going to be paying for this information with, and Guy starts to whisper something. John tells him to speak up, and Guy says that he offered to give Cabby immunity to all of his past charges of smuggling, trafficking, and every other non-violent thing ending in ing. Cabby begins to pull up a display with information about all of the locations of the Yellow Lanterns that the Green Lanterns have not been able to track, and Cabby tells John to say it. "You're impressed that I know this." John scowls and tells him, "You have a deal." Back on the volcanic planet, Hal and Kyle fight off the alien beasts, but through the struggle, Hal tells Kyle to just go ahead and keep searching. He'll handle these. Kyle shouts that he can hold his own, you know, and Hal wraps up the two creatures and Hal shouts for him to just go! Kyle blasts through trying to follow the blue light trail, and it leads him to a blinding blue light. He asks who could that be in the middle, and that's when he sees Saint Walker under attack from the undead creatures telling him to relinquish his hope. He will be prey to the misery mound. Kyle calls out to Hal, telling him that he's found what they're looking for. Hurry and come to his location. And as the misery mound starts to grab a hold of Kyle, Walker shouts, "It is I who you want. Release the White Lantern at once. You have my word that I will remain here for you." The mound tells him no bargains with misery, especially with hope. There will only be the dying of light. Hal charges in, blasting away at the mound in an attempt to free Kyle. But just as Hal gets close, the mound grabs a hold of him as well, and everything begins to fade into black. Through the darkness, Hal and Kyle call out to each other, but they get no answer. And then they both see that their power rings are not working. Before their eyes, they both begin to see the desires that they truly want, the futures that they hope for. But slowly it begins to fade and becomes stripped away. The mound tells Walker that his friends cannot help him now. Walker shouts, "You are wrong. The two people you hold are Kyle Rayner, the White Lantern, and Hal Jordan, the greatest Green Lantern of all. What you are witnessing is something that is possible for them, and they will not see it end. They see inspiration." Just then a green and white light begin to shine out of the Misery Mound, and the mound screams out in pain. As the lights begin to fade, Walker explains that he is here to fight back the elemental so that it could not deliver the final blow to this planet. And now, with it gone, it is time to plant the first seedling of hope for the future. Once he's done, Hal tells Walker it's time for them to leave. Ganthet and Sade are waiting for them, and Walker tells them that it will be pleasant to see them again. But before they can take off, Kilowog sends a transmission stating that they need to hurry back. Guy went AWOL without his ring, and John is currently in a very crackdown mood. Hal tells them that they're on their way, and they're bringing along a friend. Meanwhile, over at the planet Heap, Guy sits waiting for someone. Some of the onlooking smugglers tell him that it's kind of adorable to see him napping, and the woman shouts that he's here. A voice calls out to Guy, and then Arkillo towers over him asking, "Who should I be thanking for bringing me lunch?" Guy gets up stretching, telling him, "It's about time you showed up. Never took me this long to pick a fight. Pretty sure you haven't heard yet, being at the butt end of the universe, but the Greens and the Yellows made nice under one roof. They're rounding up all of Sinestro's goons and giving them a choice, get on board or get in jail." Arkillo asks him, "Did you bring any of your green friends to help?" And Guy tells him, "Nah, didn't even bring my power ring. So how about you take off your jewelry and we make this fight interesting?" Arkillo steps forward shouting, "I will festoon your shoulders with leftover entrails." And Guy says his translator must be squirrely, because really, what kind of word is festoon? Arkillo slips his ring off, telling Guy, "You are without your senses, and you are already dead." Arkillo charges forward, pounding Guy right in the face, knocking his body to the ground. As blood begins to drip from Guy's broken nose, Arkillo puts back on his ring, telling him, "I'm sad to say that there have been many more fighters who have survived much longer than you." But before he can actually get the ring on and it activates, a bottle is thrown into the back of his head and it shatters. Guy gets back up, blood pouring from his face, telling Arkillo, "You're not going anywhere just yet. We've got an audience now." Arkillo wastes no time going back to punching Guy, and through each and every punch, Guy says, "I got a question." Once he gets uppercutted into the face, Arkillo tells him, "The answer is no. I will not grant you mercy." Though the blood is dripping from his mouth, Guy tells him, "That's not it. I'm just wondering if the sparring is over yet." Guy jumps to his feet and he runs full force, shoving Arkillo into a stone pillar. The force causes the pillars to fall, and slowly Arkillo walks out of the rubble with a bloody head. But as Guy continues to taunt him, Arkillo grabs him by his skull and begins to squeeze down. Guy reaches up and begins to pull back Arkillo's fingers, asking, "What's next? Are you gonna yank my hair now?" John and Sornik fly down, calling out to Guy, but Arkillo focuses on Guy, telling him, "I've never met someone who talks to such lengths while on the losing end of a fight." Guy readies himself, telling him, "Clearly, you've never met anyone from Baltimore." Arkillo snaps back his finger, and then he punches into Guy's gut and he begins to strangle him. Sornik shouts that they need to stop this, but John tells her that Guy wanted this fight, so let him end it his way. While Arkillo is choking Guy, Guy remembers back to when he used to be a child. His dad used to give him the exact same beatings, so Guy struggles but tells him, "No more," and he punches straight into Arkillo's eyes. He then pulls his arm back and he rips the eye out of Arkillo's socket, and he says, "You're probably wondering how the hell does Guy Gardner take such a licking." Arkillo crawls to his knees, shouting, "My eye!" And Guy continues telling him, "It's all in the parenting. My old man was a drunk who liked to hit." Guy then cracks Arkillo again, breaking off a fang, and he jumps on top of him, punching and breaking every single bone in Arkillo's face. And Guy shouts for him to say it. "Say it!" And Arkillo, through the spitting up blood, tells him, "I yield." He stands over him, telling him, "Damn right." And then John and Sornik run in. Guy says, "Hey, Johnny." And then he collapses into his arms, saying, "Everyone needs to know that I'm the all-time champ." Sornik begins to scan Guy and says that he has massive internal bleeding. His heart rate is, and that's when Guy slips out of John's grip, saying that he just wants to catch a few Z's. John calls out to Guy, but there's no response. A short while later, over at the infirmary, Guy begins to wake up and he sees everyone around him. He starts to laugh, asking, "Who died?" And Hal fires a pop gun from his ring, shouting, "There he is." John laughs with everyone and tells Hal and Kyle that he's pretty sure that there's something that they should be doing. If not, he'd be more than happy to find them a job. So they wave goodbye, and Kyle says, "If someone said work, I'm leaving. Bye." After the two of them leave, John sits on the bed telling Guy that he's lucky that Cabby knew where to find him. And Guy laughs, telling him, "You should see the other guy." John then takes out the fang that he broke off of Arkillo and he says, "You made your point. Don't do that again. We'll need you back in uniform ASAP." Once John heads out, Guy looks at the fang and he places it on the stand. Meanwhile, outside, Hal leads Kyle to the forest, and Kyle asks where they're going. Hal stops them before a floating platform and tells him, Ganthet is there. There's something that you need to do, so go. After a few minutes on the platform, Kyle asks, why does everyone think that he can raise the dead? And Sade says the more accurate statement is that they hope he is able to which Kyle tells her that that doesn't sound ominous at all. Ganthet interrupts them, stating that he is the White Lantern. He brought Hal Jordan back from when he was lost in the emotional spectrum. Now it is time to test the limits of what can be done. A few moments later, Saint Walker flies down and Kyle asks what this is all about. He tells Kyle that there is hope. The universe needs the blue light more than ever, and it also needs his friends. But while Kyle tries to understand, Walker grabs and places Kyle's hands on his head, telling him, I will be your antenna. An explosion of white light erupts, sending lightning throughout the skies, and Kyle yells to Walker. He shouts, let me let go! And Ganthet says, you cannot. The reaction has begun. The light surges through them and Kyle shouts that it's killing Walker, and Walker tells him, all will be well. Ganthet calls out to Kyle, telling him that he doubts himself no matter the heights that he has achieved. Believe like never before. An eruption of white light shines throughout the skies, and John flies outside asking what's going on. But before he can even get close, Hal flies to him, telling him, it's Kyle, just trust him on this. Soon the power begins to take over Kyle's body, and as plant life begins to rapidly grow, Sage shouts that the power of life flourishes unchecked. It will consume all. However, while Kyle tries to focus the power, Walker begins to see something. A beam of blinding light shooting into the skies, and there is nothing. As the smoke settles, a reverted Kyle says no more. He's got nothing left. Walker gets up breathing heavy, telling him that there was a presence, an intruder barring their path. Ganthet watches and tells him that that's not possible. No power should be able to thwart the resurrection. Kyle begins to get up, looking at his ring, telling them that he can't feel anything from it. And soon the white ring shatters into the 7 colors of the spectrum, all shooting off looking for a replacement lantern. The green ring, however, stays, stating that it has found its replacement. Kyle slides the ring on, stating that he's not sure what threats are coming, but they will have their hands full. The ring then begins to put Kyle back into his original Green Lantern suit, and Kyle tells everyone he's back. Now it's time to get back to work. And that concludes the White Lantern saga in probably one of the most epic ways ever. As much as I loved the White Lantern, he definitely became an all-powerful being. He basically became Space Jesus. And there's problems writing for a character that can pretty much do anything he wants. So I like the idea of bringing him back, and maybe we can now go on another journey for him to re-earn the White Ring or something along those lines. But what do you think about the White Lantern being ended here? Let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe to keep up to date on Green Lantern, Flash, Superman, Batman, all your favorite DC storylines. And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Comicstorian.